Welcome to Front Office Pros. I'm Steve. I'm here with Dustin today because him and I are now co-managers of a new team for a Dynasty Startup Draft Bestball League. We're super excited. We're going to go through our picks and give you an explanation of why we went with our picks. This will be part one of a series of videos. Dustin, you want to share with the audience what is the settings for this league?
Yeah, this is a 16 team Dynasty Best Ball Startup Draft. 4 points for passing touchdown. We actually get quarter of a point, so 0.25 for passing first downs, -2 for interceptions. It's similar to Scott Fishbowl, where we get 0.75 for a completed pass, -1 for an incomplete pass. So anybody over 66% completion percentage gets you positive points. Uh, Half a point for rushing first down, half a point PPR, and there is a tight end premium of another half a point per reception. In our draft, pickers will represent the rookie picks in the rookie draft. So this is our startup draft. So when you see us or someone else draft a kicker, that'll represent the rookie draft. So the first kicker taken will be the 101 in the rookie draft. And that's how that goes. So if you see kickers on the board, it's not a massive reach. It is us then drafting or people drafting what they consider to be the rookie draft that'll happen after the draft later, like you traditionally would, more in August after the NFL draft. We start one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver. Then we have 4 flex spots, which can be wide receiver, running back, or tight end. So we don't have a designated tight end spot, but it is tight end premium, so allows that flexibility. But only one starting running back, one starting wide receiver. So you have that flexibility when you're drafting to kind of go however you want. So if you want to go robust RB, you want to go hero RB, you have that flexibility. I will also say this is what I would consider an industry draft. It's with other content creators in the industry that we know that kind of wanted to put this draft together to kind of have a little extra incentive to kind of hang out and talk. So there's no waivers during the season. There will be in-season trading if people want to.
And we had the seventh pick out of 16. So we're going to head over and talk about the picks. All right, so starting off with the first round, as you can see, because it's a 16-team league, we didn't really know what to expect. It's not necessarily a two-quarterback or super flex league, but it is 16 teams, so that's considered a deep league. So as you can see, it was very quarterback heavy up before our pick. You had Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, and Burrow off the board. Jefferson and Chase were taken, and then we had the 1-7 pick. We went ahead with CeeDee Lamb as the pick, but Dustin, what was our thought process there with picking Lamb?
Yeah, when we had talked, knowing that we were in that 7 spot, that there was a good chance that Chase, Burrow, and Lamb would be there for us. After we'd have loved to got Josh Allen. I think we're both big Bills fans. We would have loved to got Josh Allen. We knew that was unrealistic. We prioritized the 2 wide receivers over Burrow because we like some of the later quarterbacks, thought we could wait. And then we prioritized Lamb over Chase, mainly because of T. Higgins. Like, we both love T. Higgins, thinks he's a dynamic receiver, but that really takes away some of Chase's upside. So when we ranked them, I think we had it Lamb, Chase, Burrow. Chase and Burrow went, so Lamb was left for us. So it was kind of an easy pick. Looking ahead, we were like, we might have to take a quarterback in the second round just because at the 107, we have a ton of picks after us. And so it went. So we took CeeDee Lamb, and then it went Jonathan Taylor, Jalen Hurts, Breece Hall, AJ Brown, Justin Fields, Jalen Waddle. The 101 in the rookie draft, T. Higgins, Trevor Lawrence, who we were hoping would come back to us but didn't happen. Started the second round, Christian McCaffrey, Lamar Jackson, DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker, Garrett Wilson, Cooper Kupp. The 102 in the rookie draft, Tyreek Hill, Travis Etienne, and gets back to us at the 210. Steve,
Yeah,
what did you think about the way the picks that happened there? Were you surprised at all?
yeah. So in kind of our thought process there, I was going to say one of the things we were talking about was the possibility of a quarterback. I think you and I, being a co-manager, when you're a solo manager, obviously you get operate on your own. With a co-manager, there's a little bit more collaboration, which I do appreciate. I think you and I had mixed thoughts as far as the remaining quarterbacks go. I know for myself, I know Hurts is having a dynamic season. It was a possibility that we were talking about, but I don't know. I could be wrong about this. but it seems very reminiscent to me of the Lamar Jackson MVP season where he came on the scene. And then after that, he really has just regressed ever since then.
Yeah.
Still a good player, but just not that elite level of quarterback that we're talking about, that would, I think, justify the pick. I think Fields is probably one of the hotter names. I'm not as much of a Fields guy. I think you were more of a Fields fan than me. So I was reluctant. And I liked Lawrence, but you weren't as much of a fan of Lawrence. So I think we had some various opinions as far as the quarterback goes. And one of the things I like about fantasy football is, at the end of the day, it's one of the best representations of being in the NFL and being your own GM and making selections, because everybody has their own strategy. And for us, wide receivers have a longer shelf life. Others would say, hey, you had the chance of taking the first running back off the board. Why didn't you take, a Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker? Why didn't you do that? And I think for us, especially in a best ball format, if you haven't played it before, it's automatically going to put in the top scorer for that position in your lineup at the end of the week. And so for us, it was like, well, running back is so up and down throughout the year. It's I think probably the least durable position. They get running backs get injured all the time. And so I think we really liked Lamb for those reasons. But I think overall, not too surprised, with these. I think maybe I was a little surprised just with you're Dustin. Just take a look at Justin Tucker. I was a little surprised by the 102. Bijan Robinson, I think, is probably the best prospect since Saquon Barkley. So I'm not surprised that he went in the first round. But I think there's a pretty significant drop-off, even if you are a big Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud fan. I think that's a little early for my liking. But what were your thoughts on some of the picks taken in between Lamb and we'll be talking about Pitts here shortly?
Yeah, I mean, I think we disagreed on quarterbacks. Like, I like Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields strictly for their rushing upside, but I agree with you that gives them even a shorter shelf life. I'm not a huge Trevor Lawrence fan, but I can see the potential there, and I would have been fine with him had he been there at the 210. I agree with you. I was surprised that even 2 rookie picks were taken. And this is where we started to really talk strategy of what's our strategy for our build. And coming into this 210 pick, we talked about, do we want to play a future game and go real young and kind of build for the following year, or do we want to build a more win now team? And I think that's where we kind of said, hey, we want to build more of a win now team. So at 210, we talked about, what do we do? And we valued a running back here. So let's just, you want to talk about the 210 now and why we took Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, I could tell. Yeah, I think one of the players I think you were high on was ETN. I think it made a lot of sense, but obviously he was taken right before us, so that took him out of our consideration.
And strictly for that PPR bump, I was like, that's why I liked ETN.
Yeah. So I think at that point we were kind of like, well, where do we want to go? And even though Pitts had a disappointing season this year, there's no denying his talent. So I thought I would show you the profile there, but
no.
I believe he's 22 years old, and he is a dynamic player. I think he will figure it out at some point. But regardless, especially with the tight end premium, the way we viewed it as, if we ever feel like we need to move him, he's such an asset that somebody will be willing to trade for him. And so at the end of the day, the tight end premium, I think the buzz surrounding Pitts as the player, as well as the possibility to move away from him, because Kelsey and Andrews are older. Kelsey, I would think in the next 2-3 years, we could be talking about the top tight ends of Kittle, Kelsey, and Andrews completely turning over. And we're talking about a whole new tight end landscape. And so I think the potential of that was just, it was a win now move, because he's still an elite player, but he's young, which I think we like that tandem.
We like that balance. Yep.
Instead of getting a guy like a Kelsey or a Diggs they're awesome, but it's a shorter window. And we are wanting to win now, but we also in 3 years don't want to be dumpster diving either.
Yes. And so we did have a trade offer in this spot where we were offered the 216, the 5 to move up, basically swap seconds, 5th, and 7th round picks with the guy at 216. We were actually really looking at Najee Harris here for a while, and our thought process was is that Najee would probably be available at 216 anyway. So what's the purpose of moving back? What are we gaining? We're moving up in the 5th and 7th round. We countered with the third to swap picks in the 3rd round as well. He really didn't want that, so that kind of went off the board. We both really like Najee Harris. He's young-ish. I mean, he's a little older for like a second-year player, but had a bad season, probably because of injury, but really came on late. And this is where we talked about like what's our running back strategy, right? Because zero RB is the hot thing right now. It's either zero RB, hero RB, or robust RB. And we kind of said with best ball and only having to start one, we would wanted to go more towards a zero RB. Right? We just didn't need a top one, and we didn't think Najee was a top one. We didn't think he'd be a top 10 guy every week. So we kind of got off of that. We did think about the quarterback here, but we looked at this is where playing the draft comes into it. We were thinking about a quarterback. We weren't sold on. I liked Dak with the stack with Lamb. We talked about Deshaun Watson. But what we did is we looked at the draft and said, this is the shorter turn for us. Out of the 6 teams that would be after us, 4 of them have quarterbacks already. 2 of them do not. So there's really only 4 picks where we saw a quarterback going. At this point, there hadn't been any trades. Yes, the team in the back half of the draft could have traded up. We didn't think that was happening. So the possibility of a quarterback coming back to us in the 3rd was high. So we really got off quarterback pretty quick just because we saw the way the draft was potentially going to play out. And since we liked both Dak and Watson equally, and maybe even someone like a Russell Wilson, even if 2 of them went, we still had a 3rd one to come back to us in 3rd. So we chose Kyle Pitts, ultimately over Najee Harris, over a Stephon Diggs, over Travis Kelce. We liked the youth. We liked his, possible production. We could be talking about Kyle Pitts as a top 5 tight end next year, and in the best ball, he's going to go into our lineup just because he's going to get that premium every week. We did discuss taking the 103 here. But when we talked about it, we went back to this, we're trying to win now, and do we see the 103 really being an impact player for us more than Kyle Pitts? And we said no. So we chose Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, and I think the tough thing with Dynasty, I'm super excited to be a part of this, with different members in the industry. But I think one of the tough things when it comes to Dynasty, if you have a group of friends that are an intact group of friends, you guys have been friends for a long time, you've been in the league, you want to start doing Dynasty, and you feel this league is really going to be in it for the long haul, then to me, I don't mind playing the long game. But it's hard to play the long game, and then in 3 or 4 years, 5 years, you find out there's so many orphan teams. We're just gonna, we're gonna put it in.
Yep.
Pack it in, exactly. So it's like I hope. I think you and I have every intention to continue on with this, but we can only control ourselves. And so for us, it was like let's do a hybrid approach. More focusing on win now, but the players that we're getting have some youth to them, so they do have some relevancy as we go along in this dynasty. And, I don't know about you, Dustin, but I don't think any pick necessarily surprised me in between the 210 to the 37. But I will say, and I'll tell you this, we were thinking about Najee in the 2nd round, but I think you and I could not believe, if you're telling me that we could get Najee Harris at the 39th pick in the draft, I would have told you no way that was going to happen. So when he fell in our laps, it was like, even though we want to go robust RB, it's like that value is just too hard to pass up.
Yep. So after we took Kyle Pitts, it went Amon-Ra St. Brown, which I think surprised both of us a little bit.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley, Stephon Diggs, Travis Kelce, DeAndre Swift, Austin Eckler, start of the 3rd round, Chris Olave, the 104 in the rookie draft, Devontae Smith, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, and it gets to us at the 307. I will also say with what you're talking about with will this league go on forever? It is an industry league, and what we decided it's going to be $5, and the winning pot will go to the winner's charity. So it's not, a high stakes league, but it is there is some stakes to it a little bit, just kind of that goodwill kind of feel to it. So we are hoping that this league continues on for multiple years, but I think we're right that like we don't know what it looks like in 3 years. Yes, like I think Kelsey will be good for the next 2-3 years, but like, are we having a league 3 years from now? Who knows? And let's see where it goes. So let's really try to win now. So I agree with you. We were shocked that Najee was still available at 3.7. I think we both thought when we passed on him at 2.10, there was a good shot he was going, considering teams 1 through 6 hadn't taken a running back at all, that Najee was going to go in that range, either in the first or second, in that second or third round, somewhere in there. And now we saw Barkley, Swift, Eckler, Jacobs go before Najee, which I was shocked that Eckler went there. I mean, I know he's great for PPR, but like, how much longer does he have? He's kind of older. Barkley obviously had a great season. Jacobs has a lot of question marks. Where is he playing next year? He's got no contract. If he stays in with the Raiders, like, who's their quarterback? So there's a lot of questions. I was surprised with Jacobs, but we were shocked Najee was there. We think he was clearly a second round talent. There are some questions with Najee, with Jalen Warren, but having him there, basically 13 picks later than where we wanted him, was a huge win for us.
Oh, absolutely. And when it comes to the other running backs, I agree with you. I mean, I've always liked Jacobs. It's just so interesting sometimes. It's like you are. I don't know if you've ever had this before, but you're on a player like, oh, I'm buying him big time, and then they just don't meet expectations, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna fade him, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is the year you decide to break out. Like, I believed in you all the time. I choose to say I'm gonna back off, and then you do well. Which I think that happened to me this year when it came to Josh Jacobs. I talked about selling him before because, to me, writing was on the wall. They declined his 5th-year option. McDaniels.
He played in that Hall of Fame game like late. Like, it was just not looking good for Jacobs early.
Absolutely. I mean, I could have been McDaniels in the Patriots' way of having multiple running backs involved. I was like, this is the time where Jacobs was just going to start to decline, and all of a sudden he was used, immensely. It was shocking. But, Jacobs and Barkley, both free agents. Eckler, I think he has 1 year left on his deal, but he's an older running back. I could see him basically being done in a year or two max. Yeah, and then Swift, we have to talk about this another time, but I think Swift might be one of the most controversial players out there. I am totally against DeAndre Swift, but I know there are some people who are huge on Swift and will tell you that regardless of his durability, you need to be taking him because of the talent, and that no matter every top running back has had to deal with durability issues. I guess that's a fair point, but I don't know. There's so much happening, with that backfield. I think there's a couple things to stack against him in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. So we got Najee Harris here. We had talked about, was it Najee or a quarterback, which we had every round we're talking about taking a quarterback, and obviously we passed.
Yeah.
We looked at the back half, this longer term for us, and realized we have equal shot of a running back or a quarterback coming back to us based on what teams had drafted. There was an equal number of teams that hadn't drafted a running back, and there was equal number of teams that hadn't drafted a quarterback. So there was Najee or a wide receiver. We kind of disagreed on wide receivers. You really like Chris Godwin, who I like in theory. I thought it was a little early for him. I'm worried about who's going to be throwing the ball. He still has Mike Evans. I really want the true one on a team, not someone who could possibly be the two. I was big on Deontay Johnson, who you were not. You prefer George Pickens later on. I see Deontay Johnson had a horrible year with no touchdowns. Still saw like 147. He was top 7 in targets and no touchdowns. So I think it's an outlier. And then it was like, we like him over all the other running backs. We like Najee over all the other running backs available. We talked about a little bit about Michael Pittman, but we really felt like Najee gave us the best chance, especially since we were going to take him in the second round to scoop up a guy there. So after Najee, it went Javonte Williams, Mark Andrews, Kyler Murray, Drake London, Treylon Burks, Ramondre Stevenson, who we had thought possibly could be a guy later for us, Michael Pittman, Nick Chubb, DJ Moore to finish out the second. Then the turn was Joe Mixon, Terry McLaurin, TJ Hawkinson, the 105, Chris Godwin, Dalvin Cook, Marquise Brown, Jamison Williams, Dak Prescott, and it comes back to us at the 410. And we took Jerry Jeudy. Steve, talk us through, like, what were your thoughts with Jeudy in this spot? Like, we just saw Dak go, who we had talked about possibly being one of our quarterbacks. Were you worried that we weren't going to get a quarterback here, or? What were your
Well, I
thoughts?
mean, I think when it came down to like you and I talked about, I mean, we had to. I think the value for Najee was just too good at that point that we
Yep.
felt like we needed to take it. I honestly, if you would have done, it does depend on when you do these drafts, right? But to me, it's like if you would have done this draft in the off season last year, Najee probably was a borderline, second first round pick. So we had to take him. So then, as a result, we then saw Kyler Murray and Dak go off the board. So we weren't looking at Murray because of the ACL injury. We were talking about Dak, but now he's off the table. The other thing was some of the other players we were talking about also went. We had talked. I know a lot in the industry are really high on Stevenson. They think he's going to take that next leap.
Yep.
And then I really like Jameson Williams. I was kind of surprised that him and Burks. I didn't think they would go this early. I thought at least one of them would be available to us, which was kind of, I think, disappointing. So at that point, Judy's definitely a controversial player. Obviously him and Cortland Sutton and the whole Broncos offense, were, hyped up big time, and it was a complete goose. I had my concerns from the beginning because I saw Nathaniel Hackett when he was the Bills offensive coordinator with Doug Marrone, and I was not a fan of his from the beginning. I thought he was going to be a horrible hire. I didn't think he was going to be this bad. I don't obviously root for anybody to be bad, but he was not good at all. And you started seeing Russell Wilson being a little bit more like Russell Wilson these last few games and the season. And he obviously had a great connection with Jerry Jeudy. He's a young player, hasn't had that breakout year yet, but he's had some injury issues. So it's not like he's necessarily had a full. I don't even know now on the top of my head. I'm not even sure if he's ever had a full season or he's played every game in the season. So I think for us, the potential with Jeudy was just too great. And we are leaning more going towards wide receiver only because, again, in a best format matters. In a best ball format, we believe that if we get running backs later on, you have random running backs that end up being the RB1 for that week. Wide receivers are far more consistent. And so because we only have to start one running back and one receiver and there's multiple flexes, you really want to be able to get a wide range of players that on their scoring ability. And I think that's kind of why we zeroed in on Jeudy. But what were your thoughts? What do you think about why we went with Jeudy there?
Yeah, when we talked about it, we would love to, I think we both would have loved to have got a Jameson Williams or even a Chris Olave. I personally am a guy like 1 year can be a statistical outlier. So Deontay Johnson this year not scoring a touchdown is a statistical outlier based on NFL history and his career. So if we're in a win now approach, I want a guy that's shown it to me multiple times. And Jerry Jeudy's done that. And yes, he had a disappointing season, but he still had a ton of targets, still had good production. I liked him over the other wide receivers that were out there. Ayuk and Mike Williams, who went after us. Still young enough, right? Like he's in his third year, I think. He's got some age. He's younger than Cortland Sutton. He's shown those strides. Again, we said, hey, none of these teams on this short term have taken a quarterback yet, or have taken quarterbacks. There's only two that haven't. So a chance of a quarterback coming back to us is high, considering we really only liked Deshaun Watson, who as a player, we like his production, but we don't really like the man. We hate the man himself. Like we don't want him on our team. And then it was like, do we like to there were some other guys we talked about, but it was like, hey, we can wait and see what happens. And we liked him over the running backs, considering we had Najee and we were talking about going more robust. On the ADP list, it was some of those older guys like Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara. Dobbins was there. Again, that backfield, we don't know who's going to be running that offense. Akers had a great end of season, but literally the trade deadline in October was talked of like wanting to get traded off the Rams. So who knows what happens with him. I think it was just the right fit for us. I think when we talked, it was like, I like Jerry Jeudy. You're like, I like Jerry Jeudy. I'm like, cool. It was like the easiest pick for us because it just made sense. We both liked the player. We both liked the value we were getting there. So we took Jerry Jeudy. For us, it went J.K. Dobbins, Derrick Henry, Christian Watson, the 105 in the rookie draft, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, so both Chargers wide receivers back to back. Tony Pollard started the 5th round. Cam Akers, the 106 in the rookie draft. Then Alvin Kamara, Brandon Ayuk, Damian Pierce, and it got to us at the 507, which I think was our our pick that we talked the most about, and that's the pick we're currently at. And we took what it will eventually be the 107 in the rookie draft. Um, and we thought that this provided enough value for us here, Steve. So, what were your thoughts when we got to this 507 pick and talked about the rookie?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know what to expect, obviously, from in between our two picks, and a lot of the running backs that were in consideration. Not that I think we were going to go there anyways, but as you can see, 6 running backs went off the board. I think every single one of those guys that you see there have question marks. So I don't think for us, it didn't bother us at all. And I think when it comes to the 107 pick, we ended up going with it because and we were going back and forth. There were some other players that were on the board that we were thinking about that would help us in the win now mode. But Dustin and I both were thinking we need to have some real estate in this rookie draft. And ideally, we'd like to have it in a pivotal moment. And I think the 107 is that pivotal moment. Depending on what your rankings are, you're going to have Bijan Robinson probably 101. Yep. We're early in the draft cycle yet, so you're going to have probably some guys that rise. But in our thought process, you probably had, being this is a 16 team, which is a deep league, you're going to have Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and possibly Will Levis in the conversation. And then you're talking about Jahmyr Gibbs, you're talking about Quentin Johnson, and now you're at 6. So now you're talking about a cutoff point. You talk about a Jordan Addison, you talk about a Smith and Jigba, right? There's all these other players, maybe a Will Levis, like I mentioned, depending on where he goes. So I think we thought that 107 is going to be a crucial point in the draft where, depending on people's rankings, it could be the bottom end of their first tier, so a blue chip prospect in their mind, or the top tier, the top in their second tier. So for us, we thought this is a really strategic place for us to have a rookie pick so that when the draft comes, we think that we could receive a lot of offers, for this pick. We will probably make this pick available regardless. Doesn't mean we won't end up taking the pick ourselves because, if we really like a guy, we think a blue chip player could fall to us there. But I think it's that if we waited, we thought for sure there was going to be some rookie picks taken after us. So I think that was kind of our logic as to why we ended up going with that rookie pick.
Yeah, we agreed on our top 6. I think we had Addison and Levis being available at 7. But realistically, we're really early in that draft prospect. We haven't had the combines in a couple weeks, I think a month. Draft is, 2-3 months away. Someone else is going to rise up the board, causing one of those top 6 in our mind to fall. So if we get, a Gibbs, falls to us, I'm super happy with that. But I do think you're right. Like, this is a pivotal point in the draft, in a rookie draft, where I think it's either the last pick of that top tier or the first pick in that second tier, and people are going to be vying for it, especially if one of those top 6 guys falls. Right, all it takes is Will Levis to have a good combine or pro day to move up there, and someone needs a quarterback, or they're quarterback needy, and they jump up and get them, and that causes Gibbs to fall, or one of those other top 6, and we have a lot of leverage there. Also, if we have to make that rookie pick, I think we can get a good guy who, in a best ball, can have a good season, can be in contention get in the lineup every week. It gives us a little bit of future, but it also provides a talent. I think that's, for me, this is the cutoff of where I think that impactful talent will be in the rookie draft. Yes, we're going to see guys in the second round of the rookie draft that'll come in and, be a Brian Robinson and be a Rachaad White who will play some, Tyler Algier type who we're just going to get opportunity, but since we don't know where the landing spots are for these rookies, you're kind of blindly guessing. And then for as far as our thought process, we had talked about, again, a quarterback. Obviously, we don't have one through 5 rounds. It felt like the league itself was kind of passing on quarterbacks, kind of going with a late quarterback strategy. Obviously, Deshaun Watson and Tua are still there. I think they were our top 2. We just felt icky about Deshaun Watson, and we just didn't really want him on our team. Tua's got some question marks. Obviously, he's got great receivers in Waddle and Hill. I think part of us is maybe a little bit of our Bills fan bias that we're not huge Dolphins fans. But we thought we could wait. And we had a couple guys we liked that we're hoping come back to us in the 6th round. And then we talked about wide receiver. Was there a win now person? And I think for us, the real name that we talked about was Amari Cooper. a good receiver, solid production, a little bit on the older side, but will probably be in our lineup 90% of the weeks going forward. And would he come back to us? And that was really our struggle. Do we want the rookie pick or will Cooper come back to us? And we really felt that Cooper probably would. He was lower down on the ADP list. And if he didn't, we were okay with taking the rookie. And then we had a couple running backs that we liked that we hope would come back. So we had probably 4 or 5 guys, I think, still in our queue that we thought would come back to us in the 6th round. And we don't know where that's at. The draft is still ongoing. But we really thought this was the best leverage piece for us to set us up for the future, whether that's a pick that we make or we can leverage this into, a lower end running back that helps fill out that kind of best ball. We take, we can trade the 107 for a 2nd round pick in the rookie draft and maybe a young prospect. We can make some moves here. I love trading. I don't know about you, Steve. I'm a huge trading guy. Like I love throwing out offers, talking that kind of stuff. So I like that aspect of having that leverage. So it just made sense to us at this point to take the rookie. It is a departure a little bit from our win now strategy, but I do think it allows us that leverage.
Oh yeah, I love trading. I mean, trading, if you were in a league of mine, well, we're co-managing now, so we are in a league together, but in my other leagues, I am known as like the trader. I probably trade more than anyone else. I like reaching out to other people. It adds, there's a rush, when it comes to trading, and whether you win or lose, obviously you want to win, but it definitely adds fun. And the other thing too, when it comes to the rookie draft, that I didn't mention, running backs always seem to rise. And this class has got some very interesting names that I think could rise. I mean, you've got Tank Bigsby, you've got Tucker, you've got Evans, right? So you've got like a lot of different running backs that I think, based on the combine or where they end up going, you're going to start seeing them creep up the board. So we think this 107 could be really valuable. I think at the end of the day, I guess the trading prospect for us was too great. And really, we think that what we're able to get at 6'10" is not going to be all that much different for us. So for us, it was nice. It's like, let's have a little skin in the game, when it comes to the rookie draft. Maybe make it because the other thing too is like, do we really want to be a part of the rookie draft? And we've got like a 2nd round pick for us is, there's 16 picks in the 1st round.
Yeah,
so it's like, are we even, we want to have a little bit of excitement in this rookie draft, right?
Yep, I agree. And so like our queue currently is we're waiting for the 6th round to start. We have 2 quarterbacks, Tua, Pickett, Watson would be there available. Then our wide receivers, we really like Amari Cooper, but if he doesn't go back, we have the options of someone like Gabe Davis or maybe Darnell Mooney. Some high upside, big play available guys for the best ball format. And then running backs, we talked about James Cook and A.J. Dillon. So we have a good chunk of guys that could possibly come back to us that we are expecting to come back to us and making that decision at 6'10". So that was kind of our thought process. I think we've built – how do you feel about our team so far, Steve? Like, how do you think about these first 5 picks, the build, and where we're headed?
Yeah, I mean, so far, I think we're in really good shape. Our plan was robust running back, but we ended up getting, I think what you and I both believe is a top running back. Kind of fell into our laps, so I'm really happy about that. Kind of gives us some flexibility a little bit more in that running back spot as we kind of go on with future rounds. Lamb and Judy coming in the same draft class, both young, both, I think, talents on the rise. Same with Pitts. A talent on the rise. So I think it's a good youthful roster, but also with a lot of talent, a lot of potential, a lot of upside. We have the cherry on top with this rookie pick to be able to possibly, have a stake in a blue chip player. So I think really the big thing is how, with a 16 team league, how do we address the quarterback? That's kind of the big question mark, and most of the elite guys are gone. Well, all of them are gone. So, what do we do? What do we do at the quarterback spot? Or, do we, and you have to play the board, or do we risk it? Do we continue to play the board and continue to stock up on, wide receiver talent? Or if there's some running backs we like, we don't have to start a tight end in this league, which is, I know, different for me. So being that we don't have to, unless they are a PP, if they're going to get a lot of catches and targets, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I think we have that guy in Pitts who can basically be like a wide out / tight end, really, because he can play like a receiver. So I think so far, I think we're in good shape based on the 107th or the 7th pick that we had in this draft. But closing out here, what were your thoughts as to how we did?
Yeah, I think we did great. When we're talking about a best ball team, I want guys who are established. Like I love Chris Olave and Jameson Williams, but one year, like we've seen that before, flash in the pans. Like at least we have guys who at least have 1 or 2 years of production. Kyle Pitts is the only real question mark, but he projects to well. It's injury that's really slowed him down. I do agree with you. Like the quarterback's going to be a question mark, but we have some guys available based on the boards. Most teams have a quarterback now, so we're not super hurting. As far as like, there's not going to be a big run, I don't think. I think we did a good job building a young enough team of talented players. I mean, yes, there's guys I would have loved to got Amon-Ra St. Brown. I did not expect him to go in the second round, but I think we got enough guys. I don't see a ton of question marks on our team other than like, right, and what's Najee's workload look like next year? I still think it's going to be up there. Jaylen Warren has looked good, but not great. We have a little bit of question marks with Judy, with the offense, with Russell Wilson, but I think that turns it around. The question marks we have, I think, for me, can be statistical anomalies, and it's not like a Mike Williams where he's injured every other game, it seems, and we're gonna miss time with him. So we didn't get super old guys. We didn't get Keenan Allen, who might have a year or two left. Like we've got enough youth, but enough proven production that I think our team should be really good this year.
I mean, I think at worst, we're a playoff team in my opinion.
I agree.
Oh, well, I guess in this league, I guess it's what? I think it's based on total points. I don't even know if there's a playoffs, or maybe we haven't figured that out yet.
Let's see. The league settings are, I want to say it's 6 teams make the playoffs. Yeah, I think we're just doing total points, I think is the way it works. I don't think we're doing head to head. So it'll be fun. I think it's going to be a fun league. I'm looking to see how we fill out the team in the next, 5-6 picks. But I think we're on a good spot. It's been great collaborating with you to kind of talk through some players. If you guys have questions about why we went with one of these guys, want a little more in depth, ask why we keep passing on quarterback, shoot a comment on the YouTube, hit us up on Twitter. We love talking to it. This is a currently active draft. So currently the draft hasn't even reached the 6th round. So we are still in the mix of this draft. So we're going to be putting out these videos as every probably 5 rounds or so. Just kind of give you guys a live, in-depth look into this. I think it's different than a mock draft where a lot of times mock drafts for me after 5 rounds, it's like no one cares. They check out and the computer runs it. These are actual live people in the industry making picks to build their best team. So we wanted to give you guys a little insight to why we made these picks, and I think it's going pretty well for our team, and I like what we're building so far.
So if you've enjoyed this content, both me and Dustin are on Twitter. You can follow us at myself at Steve_FOP. You got Dustin at the DUnit13. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell. Like Dustin said, we're going to do a series of videos, talking about this draft. So we're excited to talk about it with you. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time.